Here we go. Satisfaction, right? ASMR. I should do ASMR right from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Can you see it? I gotta hold it somehow.
Oh, over. There you go.
There we go. Continuation from Monday. Love this.
That's so cool.
Oh, that is gorgeous. I'm loving this. This is beautiful.
That's amazing.
Oh, I got to show you right here. Can you? Oh, come on, Ingrid. It's weird. There we go. Look at that texture. That yellow.
Wow.
I can't. Apparently, I can't do this like this. It's much easier when you're
It's all
actually looking at
backwards,
it.
so it's hard.
It is, yeah.
Well, hello, everybody. Happy Friday evening, if it is Friday evening for you.
Okay.
Sorry, you cut out, Ingrid.
Oh, I did? Sorry.
Yeah. That's good. You're good.
We're live. We're live. We got a lot of fun stuff. We got all sorts of questions today, right, Tiff?
Yep. Got several. So if you have any, feel free to leave them in the chat. But we're going to go through the ones that came in previously through the week through our email list or Instagram or YouTube or whatever.
I'm distracting her with pretty projects with alcohol.
I know, like so pretty squirrel.
If you don't know what we're talking about, then you clearly missed our alcohol ink live on Monday.
Yes, we'll link it at the end of this.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yep.
All
right. Speaking of alcohol inks, the first question is from Audrey. She asks, what do you use to seal alcohol inks on different substrates? Ingrid, you want to go?
I'm sorry, I'm distracted. My best friend from high school, who is never on my channel, is in the chat. Hey, Jessica.
Oh, cool.
She's using a name that she shouldn't in public. Little pet names. All right, shoot again. Tell me what that was. What do I use to seal? Oh, this is great. Okay, because I actually only had the one. And so I actually ordered them myself because I have a lot of alcohol ink projects that I need to seal. And I had a feeling that this question was going to be coming somewhere just because of everything that we did on Monday. And the tiles and the mug that I just unwrapped will need to have the Kamar varnish first. A couple layers. Then you have to let them all dry in between, which doesn't take very long. And then UV resistant clear. Several layers of that as well. The UV resistant clear will keep it from fading with just the UV rays. So paper, tile, doesn't matter what it is.
Awesome. Yeah, I have some of the Kamar varnish as well, and I used it for to seal the alcohol ink projects I did on black cardstock. Well, alcohol ink cardstock, but I forgot the UV one, so I'm gonna have to get that one because that's important.
But thankfully, that comes afterwards. So you do the Kamar varnish first.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, well,
so
I did put resin on top already, so.
Oh, yeah, that's probably not gonna work.
Yeah.
Well, maybe you never know. You'll have to do like a test project, like a little something.
Yeah. I do have a test because I didn't want to put the resin on one that was my favorite, obviously. So I put one on that was kind of first to make sure that the resin wasn't going to react weird with the alcohol ink cardstock or anything. So I could try it on that one, see if it works on top.
I do that too. I love how you qualified your project as That would be a C print.
I don't have it
in gel printing language.
Meh. That's a big word in our house. Are you feeling meh? my projects are May.
All right, let's go. What's the next question? We have so many questions. It's great. And if you're here in the chat, feel free to pop a question in there too if you didn't get a chance to post it before. We would love to get to it. So can I ask one from the chat? Would that be okay?
Of course.
Because we had several. All right. So Tara, she asked, are there any specific products you should not use on a gel plate? Yeah, I think there's another part to that. Let me see if I can see it. I know you say experiment, but I love that. Tiffany, do you have any thoughts? I mean, I have thoughts for sure.
The only thing that I can think of is you don't want to heat it. You don't want to use your heat tool.
Good one.
Yeah. As far as mediums go, I don't know. That's a good one.
Yeah.
For you.
I mean, for me, when it comes to the thing that I initially went to was sharp objects, because you can cut your plate, and that's not, you're defeating the purpose there. You need that nice, smooth surface. But when it comes to mediums, I mean, you could pretty much use just about anything, except the more water it has. So like if you were to use like true watercolor, that's probably going to bead up a little bit more, and it's going to be a little bit more frustrating to pull a print, but it doesn't mean that you can't use it. So I say experiment. If it doesn't turn out, it doesn't turn out, try again, and try less fluid. You can still use things like alcohol inks and things that dry really quickly, and you can still take the pulls, which is really great. It may stain your plate, but just because your plate gets stained does not mean that you still can't use it, because that's not going to come up in future prints.
Okay. Sue from my chat, she says, don't use oil paints. Is that?
I've never tried, but I have them. Have you tried that, Sue? I'm curious.
Yeah.
I'm curious. You'll have to leave us some more information. Yeah. Cool. All right. You go. Got another one?
All right. Yep. Wendy, this came in from somebody on my email list. She asks, where does mica powder come from? Is it natural or man-made? I think some are natural. I know Tim Holtz, the mica that he uses in his new foundry wax, he says is natural. But I know some people do use man-made. Sorry, I couldn't think of the words.
There are a lot of pigments nowadays where some of the more expensive ones like cadmium and other things, and now I would think even like cobalt, think of rocks and stuff that gets crushed, right? Because they used to use cobalt to tint ceramics, the really, really beautiful blue. I'm sure we all have some kind of cobalt. This is not it, but this is more cerulean blue. But that really, really deep, bright kind of blue. They are using that a lot now in products like electric cars to power those. So a lot of the mines in Africa that produce cobalt are now, they've been actually bought out by the Chinese. The Chinese are running them. So they kind of have a corner on the cobalt market. But that made me think of art supplies. The more I hear of things like that, and I think of cadmium, and I think of things that are being depleted, where there's only a finite amount of those minerals and pigments and things that they do use to make a lot of art supplies and color. So sometimes when those prices start to get a little astronomical, you'll start to see different companies experiment and create some more synthetic versions. Which I'm not necessarily against, but girl needs her color, right?
Yes. All right. The next question, no name, but they asked, what is the best paper for watercolor? My answer might be a little controversial. Maybe, I don't know. Not controversial, but I don't use like really expensive watercolor paper because and I've said this many times, I'm not a watercolorist where I'm not going to want to sell or frame my watercolor pieces. So for me, because I'm doing cards, not just doing cards, but I'm doing cards. Cards are important. Um, I don't feel that, spending, you know, a crazy amount of money on watercolor paper is a necessity. So for me, I
Mhm.
use a lot of Arteza watercolor paper. But one that I've actually recently have been loving is the Tim Holtz Distress watercolor paper. It's amazing. And I promise you could trust me on that. For like distress, not because I'm like, a maker or anything, but you could trust me. It's amazing. It holds really well to a lot of water. So yeah,
I have a different opinion.
I know you do.
This is going to be fun. Yeah. And you know what? And I think you actually said it really best, Tiffany, in the beginning. I think
Mhm.
it depends really on what the goal is of the project as well. If you're really looking to do true watercolor, and let's say you're doing a lot of wet on wet techniques or anything like that, a lot of layers, you're going to want to reach for something that's better, something by like, something that's a little bit more of a cotton fiber, like maybe Fabriano, or I'm trying to think of what my favorite brand is. It's all the way back there, but I can't think of it. Arches. I love Arches brand, but there's different types of watercolor paper. There's smooth, there's cold press, there's hot press. And depending on what it is that you're trying to do, if you're going to stamp on top of your watercolor, then you may want to go with a hot press paper, which is going to be a little bit smoother. I have not had good results with the Tim Holtz Distress watercolor paper. Now, that's for watercoloring. If I were doing a lot of distress techniques, then my opinion is totally different. Again, it depends on what your goal is and what it is that you're working on. And just because I didn't have a good result doesn't mean that you're not going to have a good result, because a lot of his products are actually really top quality, and I really love a lot of the things that I own practically everything that they've put out. Let's put it that way. So, but when it comes to card making, I don't need Arches watercolor paper. That's quite expensive, let me tell you. So one of my go-tos is actually Canson XL pad. I love that watercolor pad. It's very inexpensive. You can get a nice hefty, like it's a glued pack. So like you just peel them off. And I want to say there's usually like 30 sheets in it, 8x10s, like good size, or 9x11 size for like $10.
Oh wow.
And think about it. Think of how many cards you can make with that. And that's if you even made full size cards. Think of if you're just doing like strips and stuff, you can actually that goes a long way. It takes me a while to go through one of those pads. So yeah, I think it depends on what you're trying to do.
Yeah. I think I
Yeah.
actually have some Canson or Strathmore. I like Strathmore
Mhm.
too. Yeah.
I do too. And they have different weights too. There's different series. There's a 300 series, the 200 series, the 400 series. And, with each number, the price usually goes up because it's usually a finer quality. But,
Right.
and another brand that I love is one that's found a lot in like Europe and Germany. You will find it here in the States too, Muller. They have beautiful, beautiful papers as well. And there's different levels, and what do you feel about mixed media paper, Tiffany?
I I like mixed media paper. I don't know if I would, well, I don't really watercolor like flowers or anything like that, but
Mhm.
um if I was just doing like a simple distress background or something, I would use mixed media paper. And I don't know if, because there is Ranger distress paper, heavy stock, and watercolor
Mhm.
paper. I don't know if you knew that or not. If you've like,
Well, I've kind of shied away from a lot of those papers for
okay.
those reasons. Yeah, because I have not had a lot of really desired results for myself.
Hmm.
Um, I don't need to own every single paper out there. You all don't
Right.
either.
Yep, that's
Yes,
true.
I am saying that. You don't need to own every single type of paper out there. I'm not opposed to trying stuff, but if I have a ton of watercolor paper. I don't need to try it all.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, because if I were to go in and try to actually watercolor on distress heavy stock, it's not going to work because it's
Mm,
made to like spray and do other things, not necessarily like to do a really cool watercolor effect. So,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I'm digging your headphones, by the way.
Thanks. I'm like an official like a podcaster YouTuber person,
You
right?
are. Yeah, here we are. Yeah, I should bring the microphone up higher. It's very official. This is very different. Usually you guys are all looking at our hands.
Yeah, it's true. They're me, I promise.
Yep.
Well, I don't have my
Yep.
my watch on, but
I'm feeling like we need to pull the last one.
oh yeah,
How's it looking?
nice.
I have to tell you, these were the simplest projects to make, and look at how cool those look. They took like seconds, right?
Yep,
It's crazy.
yep.
That's all. My dad would love this. Good
Aw,
Father's Day
yeah.
gift, inexpensive. Use the alcohol ink refills that you have. Literally seconds. You can do
Yep.
that. Oh, that's very cool. Lori is saying to try Academy watercolor paper. It's not cheap, but less than Arches. I'll have to do that. That's great. Thanks, Lori.
Sue says Friday night drift with Tiff. I love it, Sue. That's funny.
That's great. All right.
Yeah.
I got another question. Let's see here. Okay, so Violet Cat, love the name, asked this in the chat earlier. How can you seal alcohol inks on yupo paper? She doesn't want to use a spray. Are there other options? Now, Tiffany, you are although you don't use a lot of yupo, you have used a lot of different papers before. Have you ever tried to seal it with something other than a spray?
No. Again, this might not controversial, but my opinion might differ from other people's. I don't seal a lot of my alcohol ink because they are going on mostly cards. But recently, when I did the alcohol ink on the black alcohol ink cardstock, it looked more like artwork to me. So of course, I didn't want to put it on a card. So my mind shifted a little bit. So that's when I did get some spray. So I don't think a gel, I don't know. I'm trying to think of a gel over.
Yeah, I don't think
know.
so. I mean, if anything, it's going to turn it matte. But you use resin.
Oh yes, resin. I have, yes.
Yeah,
resin.
you've done resin before. And you can make a lot of really cool resin art also, even with Jessica. I don't know if you're still here in the chat. Jessica and I, back in our days, long time ago, decades ago. I won't mention how many decades since high school, but we made jewelry boxes with resin, and we had gotten some really cool foil papers. There weren't a whole lot of cool things to buy in the craft stores back then. Craft stores and big box stores were not what they are today. Scrapbooking didn't even exist back then. Okay, well, not, mainstream or anything like that. Yeah, I'm really dating myself now here. But we sealed a lot of those, kind of like really chip kind of boxes, those really, really thin wood ones, and then made really cool pattern designs. I have one somewhere. I should find it and take a picture.
Yeah. Sorry, just answering. Melissa asked if the mug got revealed already. So I'm telling her, yes, it did.
Yes, it did.
Yep. And it was amazing.
It's so amazing. Hey, Melissa. Melissa tells me that her 40th high school reunion is coming up next month. Yeah, I don't know how that's possible either, Melissa. You look like you're 25, quite honestly.
That's amazing. My 20th is coming.
Oh, she's just a baby. Just a baby. Now that I pulled all the projects, so I will take pictures and I will definitely post those. I do have to show though, because I had fun afterward the next morning. I just decided to keep playing and really did a lot of the like, and this that actually doesn't even do it justice. I'll have to see if I can capture this in a picture because it's so beautiful. It looks just like the ocean and it has some of the gold. I tried to follow along on your technique, Tiffany. And so I added the gold just like you did. And I added some different colors but I did blowing techniques with a straw and it is just gorgeous. I love how it turned out. I've got all these coasters now. Gonna have to start selling them. Yep.
Cindy's asking, well, she says, that is cool. How do you wash that?
A tile?
Mm-hmm.
Well, once you seal it, it'll resist everything. So you just wash it with water.
Yep. You have to seal it first.
You have to seal it. That's the key. It's the same thing like when you're making, I'm taking these off of my coasters. All the water was beaded up on top. So same thing, this is just a gel print sitting on top of like just, manufactured wood with a little bit of cork on the back. I did this in a live, I think 2 weeks ago. I also have a video on it. And then once you seal this, same thing, water just literally just runs right off. It's awesome.
And what did you seal those with?
I sealed them with, that's a good question. What's it called?
I forget
It's a
because I know it was like she did a whole video on it. So
I'll have it linked in the description afterwards. I'll definitely link the video. I can't the product is escaping me right now, but I can see it. It's a water-based polyacrylic. I can't remember the brand. I got at Lowe's. The first time I used like I want to say a spar varnish, which was, and spar I think is the brand, but it was a polyacrylic, but it was oil-based. And that's the kind of varnish that you would use like to seal wood outside, like your deck. So think about it. If you're sealing your deck and your wood for the outdoors, obviously water is just going to run right off that baby. And it does. Like if I put, in the summertime, I had, like iced beverages and had them sitting on there in the water, you could lift it up and the water just rolls right off. It's great. But the one that I got that's water-based, the problem with that one was it stunk. It smelled so bad because it was an oil-based varnish. So it took several months for that to, yes, thank you, Melissa, Minwax polyacrylic sealer. Thank you. She rescued us. Yes, but the other one, it kind of stunk a little bit. So that's why I switched to water-based and it doesn't smell.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. You got another one?
Mm-hmm.
I got another question here.
Mm-hmm.
So, this will be good for you too. Can you seal, this is Violet Cat, she asked another question. Can you seal gel plate prints so that you can write on top of them for an art journal? I'd like to use the background and then journal on top with a marker or pen. What can I use?
Can you seal right on top of the journal?
I'm thinking you've done this probably several times. I'm thinking matte medium or gel medium or glaze.
Yeah,
any of those.
I would probably use a matte gel medium or something. I like matte things.
Me too. Yeah. I have glossy, but I don't reach for it. Yeah, and then Posca pens on top. Yeah. Or like a Stabilo all pencil would work too, but then you'd probably have to seal that also afterward.
Yeah.
Because it can run. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. Or also Faber-Castell pit pens. Pit markers. Those would work too. Yep. Or gel pens.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yep. No worries, Tracy. Nobody is ever late to join.
We're just hanging out.
On time. We're just hanging out. Crafty friends. I'd love to know if anybody's crafting. If anybody's crafting, let us know.
Yeah.
Oh, she
what you're
says
creating.
one product you should not use on a gel plate is glossy photo paper. She learned the hard way. Interesting. Probably because it's inexpensive and it doesn't have as I don't know, it's probably not sealed as well. I wonder if my more expensive glossy paper would work though. I don't know if I'd want to waste that though.
Yeah.
On that. Yeah, because you wouldn't really be able to see it, so.
Yeah. I don't know if it's worth trying. Ruin a gel plate.
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Another one?
All right. You're up.
Okay. What's the difference? Okay, so Irene's asking, what is the difference between the different brands of alcohol markers? I have no idea. I don't really use alcohol markers, so I don't know.
I don't either. I just had this conversation. My friend Amy's in the chat with her today. She said that she just bought the entire set of the Altenew alcohol line with actually all the reinkers. And I thought of you. I was telling her about how wonderful that deep blue you were using on Monday in our live, because that's just gorgeous. That's a gorgeous, like deep, I'll call it a midnight blue. And she has the Copic line as well. And she had also had Spectrum alcohol ink markers. I just think, I mean, she was saying that the Altenew markers didn't dry out as fast as the Copic not Copic. Maybe the Copics. Yeah, for her. So she seemed to like those better. Me personally, there's only so many craft supplies and only so many directions that I can go in. And so I have intentionally stayed away from alcohol markers because of that. I know it's not a very popular opinion, but.
Yeah. I tried using Copic's. What were those one little cute like they were like back then there was like a lot of little girls with like the cute, I forget, greeting farm. That's what so I had a few, but I couldn't get the hang of it. And so I got rid of what I had. I mean, it wasn't many at all. And then when I was doing like guest design teamwork and stuff for Altenew, they had sent me the alcohol markers. That's why I have the alcohol ink markers. I probably don't have all of them now, but this was many years ago. But yeah, I don't use them. Abby uses them more than I do.
Yeah, and I absolutely love the look of it. It's absolutely gorgeous. Melissa in the chat, I know that she's a big Copic colorer, and she says, as with any product, and this makes sense completely, she says, an artist grade alcohol marker like Copic blends easier than some of the cheaper ones, which makes sense. Thank you for that, Melissa. That's a wise little tidbit. But there are all different kinds of alcohol markers. But you and I seem to be starting a collection of alcohol refills.
Yes.
Yes. I am very quickly accumulating. And a matter of fact, after Tiffany and I went live on Monday to work on unexpected surfaces with alcohol ink refills, I actually ordered, it's already here, the Pinata gold that I talked about, because it had been on my list for forever. I wanted it so badly. And I was so frustrated because I couldn't find my espresso refill. Of course, it was right in with everything else, but I found it after I reordered one. So now I have two.
Oh, that's too funny.
Who else has done that? Anybody? Ordered something
Michelle
that you
says
already
price.
Have?
Sorry.
Price, definitely. That's definitely a difference between them, for sure. For sure, definitely. And I wonder if you get better deals probably if you start buying the sets too, I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. You know, thinking about what I know now, like about how important the paper is, how important, how many different types of paper, I probably was using the wrong paper, even though I could remember back then knowing people would say, oh, you need to use this, but I probably wasn't using what I was supposed to. So
Yeah, I remember I have a friend we have a couple friends actually that are big, alcohol ink marker colorers. Laura Volpez
yeah,
is one.
Laura.
She's got amazing tutorials on her YouTube channel. I'll link that in my description as well. But I had a friend, Cindy, and she was just really known for her alcohol ink coloring. And she tested extensively different papers because you're right. So much of this does, just like with watercolor, it comes down to paper, right?
Yeah.
If you're going to spend your money somewhere, paper is going to be one. And it's one that a lot of people ignore, and it's the same thing too. It's something that can hold people back even with gel printing. They're like, I don't want to use my good paper on that one. That's the opposite of everything else, right? You don't need to have the best paper to do make incredible prints and gel printing, but with like coloring and things like that, anything that has a lot of water, and I would think alcohol ink is a very fluid medium, right? So I would think the same thing. And I know that she actually, out of all the different papers, Catherine Pooler's paper was one of the best that she liked to use. Yeah, Melissa's agreeing with me. Cindy's an amazing colorist. Amazing. Like, really. Then there's also, what's that other paper? The yellow, Bristol, is it Bristol?
Bristol Smooth.
Yes. So like when you're using like Zig, not alcohol markers, but the watercolor markers, those are great. Like that is one of the best papers to use for that. It's just so super smooth. So
yeah,
surfaces matter.
Yeah.
Yep. Cool.
Sorry, it's just a random thought. I was like,
it's a great thought.
I was doing it all wrong back then.
Great point. So you got another one? Another question? Cool.
Alyssa asks, do you sell your artwork? What do you do with all your artwork if you don't sell it?
I wasn't planning this, but
I'm hiding.
This is what you do with it. You hoard. This is just like one of 100 baskets.
Okay, Ingrid said it first.
You hoard. This is called Crafty Hoarders. That's this show right now. Crafty Hoarders.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I love to keep projects, and I keep them for two reasons, because I teach classes, and a lot of times a lot of the videos that I will end up doing techniques on, or if I'm doing an online class, I obviously keep those samples because they're really good for educational purposes. But I also, I do send stuff away, and that's why I like to make multiples. I don't know about you, Tiffany. I do tend to get some things from time to time from some crafty people. Just saying.
Hey, that's really nice.
That is. You did a video on that one. Yep. A couple crafty peeps who do send me stuff. There's a lovely little piece by Karen Tamir. But I do, and I end up keeping a lot. You?
I have a hard time parting with things. Like the last year or so, I haven't done really any more altered projects, but when I did, I spent all this time and money and product on these things, and if I were to try to sell it, no one would give me what I would want for it, what I think it's worth. So I'd rather keep it for myself, and it's hard for me. I get attached to things. So me and my husband were just talking about that, because I have a lot of stuff, bins full of finished projects. So
I think it's okay to keep. I think it's okay to keep it. So Melissa also here in the chat, she said she's horrible about mailing out cards, and that is true. I would love to know how many of you in the chat really don't mail as much as you would like to. I know I would like to, but for some reason, something holds me back. Yeah. We need to get better at it. Maybe we need to challenge ourselves. Run a challenge.
Yeah. Yeah.
The
Send out some cards.
365 challenge, mail a card a day.
I probably have enough right here to do that. Not have
I
to
probably
make
should
another
start
card.
with the 7-day challenge.
Yeah.
We can work our way up.
Yeah.
Oh, this is great. Lori says, I'm so glad I'm not alone. She has at least 100 backgrounds made. You're right. That's the fun part.
Yeah. Yep.
Absolutely.
And backgrounds are fun and easy to make.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's hard to want to use one that you really, really like as a background. At least for me, I'm like, I don't want to do anything with it. Yeah. I don't want to do anything with this because what if I, mess it up, I quotate mess it up, but yeah.
Oh, this is great. Melissa said maybe start a mail a card Monday. I love that, Melissa.
Oh,
that sounds like a great way to start a week.
Yep.
I love that. I may just have to we may have to turn that into something for sure.
Yeah.
Great idea. Great idea. Yeah,
I have a lot of.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say I have a lot of people in my chats addresses, so maybe I just need to sporadically send cards.
Mystery card Monday.
Mystery card Monday. There you go.
Mel says that she feels awkward sending random cards to people. But you know what? Okay, Mel, I'm going to push back on that, and I hope that's okay. It's said with all the love in the world, because I'm going to also, put myself in the same boat sometimes. I feel like, and this might be why I tend to gravitate towards, sentiments like, just because, or hello. I use hello a lot because that way it's not such a big deal, I think, to mail a card, because I would love for somebody to just send me a card. I know that anytime I see Happy Mail in the mailbox, I immediately smile. And so when I'm mailing a card, that's what I think of. So, Mel, you're going to have to email me your address. You can click the link in my on my about page and send me your address, and I will randomly mail you a card. And I promise I won't feel awkward about it because now we're friends. So I seem to have lost Tiffany somehow. She's gone for a second, which is totally fine. She'll be back. Tech issues. You all know how that is. Now you get a full view of the room here. I've got all my messy cards back there, but I have art all around me. It makes me happy. Yes, please do that, Mel. I would love that. All right, so I am going to answer a couple more questions that I have here. Mora, she is asking, she's saying that she struggles with layers using stencils, and she wants to know if I can give the secret to getting a good print layering this way. Well, that is an excellent question, and I have probably two things. Hey, Karen, thanks for telling me that. I did not know that. I will have to look into that. I will, let's see here. So when it comes to layering with stencils, one of the biggest things that you have to remember is that you want the you want the layers to be dry in between. That's the biggest key of this live. Okay, so Mel says she knows that she's supposed to wait for her layers to dry in between, but she's so impatient with a gel plate. Yeah, I know. I hear you. That can be a struggle. So when you're working with layers, one of the things that you want to do is you want to fully let things dry. I like to leave the stencil down when I'm layering, if I'm doing multiple layers, and that helps me to get this kind of a look. And I'm doing a free Zoom class on this technique because it's kind of like a style that I've adapted, and that link is in the description for everybody. It's really a fun technique, so I would love for you to join us. It's going to be, yay, Tiffany's back. It's going to be in mid-May. It's totally free. I'm going to talk a lot about it in depth. And the cool thing about that is you'll also have an opportunity to get on camera in case you are missing, kind of not getting it. So we can actually problem and troubleshoot things right in the moment. Welcome back, Tiffany. We had all sorts of tech issues there. Karen popped in here and let me know that I wasn't even public. My live was unlisted the whole time. So,
wow.
So sorry for all of you that are just joining and wondering where this live has been. We've been actually live since 8:30.
That's too funny.
That's what replays are for. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Maura, I don't know if that totally answered your question there, but that is my secret. One of the other things is to really balance light and dark. Just like you would with anything else that you work in crafting, whether you're watercolor painting or doing alcohol inks, if you have all the dark, if you have all the, there's a link for my email list in there, Mary, and I think you're already on there. And that will take you to my email list, and then I'm going to be mailing the list out all the details. I'm just actually finalizing the dates and everything right now. So, because I need help from people with that class. When you're balancing light and dark, it's important that when you're doing different layers and things like that, that you're kind of thinking of that. So one of the things you have to be cognizant of too is the type of paints that you're using. If you're using transparent paints, for instance. So I encourage you to, if you don't know whether a paint of yours is opaque, meaning that you can't really see. Okay, well, hopefully that was the last of it. You'd think we've never done this before.
My headphones died and I was trying to grab my other ones that are hooked up to my other computer, and I unplugged, obviously, my camera. So yeah, there you go.
There you go. And I literally, for my job, am on Zoom all day long with clients, and I teach Zoom classes, and sometimes I'm on a podcast or things like that. I'm constantly dealing with all these things, and you'd think that we would not have these issues since I do that so much, but apparently not. So
no, technology has a mind of its own. So
it really does. It really does. All right. So why don't you tackle another question?
Oh, you know what? Oh, yeah, here they are. I was going to say, I think I closed it, but it's right here. So Lynn asks, or she says, I remember you said you need to use blending solution with pearls, but do the metallics work with isopropyl alcohol, or do they need blending solution too? So the pearls, you have to use the blending solution. You don't have to use the blending solution with the metallics or the mixatives, but they will like rub off a little bit or flake off a little bit if you don't use the blending solution, because it's not going to be, not sealed, but what's the word? Set. It won't set with just isopropyl alcohol. Again, I create cards mostly. I don't mind it a little bit, kind of.
Me either.
Yeah. So, and most of the time I am splattering with, the metallic. So unless so no, to use the metallics, you don't have to use blending solution, but if you want it to be set, then you do. Like if I were to use a lot of the mixative, or what's the other one? Alloy. That's what I was looking for. Yeah. To mix in onto it, like I did the tile the other day, then I would use blending solution, because that's a lot of it on there, and that I wouldn't want just coming off, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's so funny. I literally just showed everybody that blue tile, and it's probably somewhere right in front of me, and I can't see it because that has some of that, the mixatives in it, because I think that's what I used. Here it is. Okay. Yeah, so like this, Tiffany.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's and because this is on tile, this is going to need to be sealed too, because it's kind of rubbing off. So that's definitely something that depending on what it is that you want to do. If you're going to make a card and sending it to somebody, I don't know. Yes, Mary asked. She asked if we could seal alcohol ink with distress glaze. Have you ever tried that, Tiffany?
Yes and no. Well, I won't say no, but I've tried it on yupo paper or craft plastic, and because it's plastic, the distress glaze does not set on there. I've tried it.
There you go. Yeah, it's distress glaze, I think, would probably work better on a water-based product, right? Yeah, definitely. All right, let's see here. I've got another question. So Mariana asked, being a longtime card maker, she has wanted to try gel printing for ages. You totally should. I think I might have a video or two on it. I've only got one session under my belt and realized quickly after watching the tutorials that that she finds extremely inspiring. Thank you. I was a little heavy on the paint. Ooh, okay. That's very common, actually. I was the same way the very first time I tried it. She did find a little flaking when dry on her deli paper for the first layer. She's asking, do you think this was also from too much paint, or could it be the paint was a little old? She was using Liquitex. Interesting. Generally when paint, especially Liquitex, I'm thinking you probably have some of the more heavy body acrylics, possibly in the squeeze bottle. If they're old, they tend to look a little grainy, kind of. And it doesn't really give the best look. I have a couple paints that are starting to get, I really should toss, but let's be real, people. We don't toss anything, do we?
No, it's
we'll figure out a way. We'll figure out a way to use it. But also too with fluids, if you use too much paint, you will generally see like some ripples or some sort of weird kind of texture. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but it can also very easily, probably be moved, or you'll bump it, or like for me, if I have too many layers, I can put that off a piece. My guess is if it was flaking from your deli paper, it might be that it was a little either maybe dried on top of another piece but didn't fully bond. So it very easily came off, and it could just be also that it might have just been also old. It's quite possible. So, yep.
Interesting.
Yep. I got another good one. This would be good for both you and me. So this question was, how did you get into card making? And any thoughts on how the industry has changed or evolved?
Okay, let's go. No, I'm just kidding. Bye. No, just kidding.
That's a good one. That's a good question.
Do you want me to go first, or you want to go?
Yeah, go for it. How'd you get into card making?
So we lived in San Diego area, and I was in a lot of play groups, like Mommy and Me play groups. And this one lady, she was a Stampin' Up demonstrator, and she was doing I think it was a Father's Day layout. And I thought it was the coolest thing ever. And all it was just matting the photo on the paper, and then the stamping. The stamping is what I'm a stamper. I'll always be a stamper. And then she did another one, like a card making one. And, we couldn't afford a lot back then. So I was like, hey, to my husband, do we have a few extra bucks? We can go to Big Lots or like the dollar spot at Michael's or something. So that's how I started. And then it just
went from there. All took off. Yeah, it's funny. I bet you there's a lot of, I would love to know in both our chats, how many people started with Stampin' Up. Because I have to say that I feel like Stampin' Up took this, it really helped to create, this industry created long before Stampin' Up was created long before Stampin' Up! Ever existed. And actually, when Stampin' Up! First started, that was before really heat tools and where people were like embossing and stuff, I think, you know, over flames. It's been around for a long time, over 30 years, believe it or not. But just like you know, when it comes to card making, I actually I was a scrapbooker since my friend Jessica, who was in the chat, I was introduced to scrapbooking through a creative memories consultant in the mid 90s or early to mid 90s. And just kind of went down the scrapbooking path for a while, and there really wasn't a whole lot of product out there. But when I would go to Michael's, I would wander down the one aisle where on half, and only half of the half, would have stamping supplies, right? And there weren't papers, there weren't really a whole lot of things. And then scrapbooking kind of took off. Then you used to have the pattern paper and the awful cardstock that was at Michael's. awful cardstock that was at Michael's. And there were the cheesiest stamps. And it felt like they were always the same stamps on big wooden blocks. And every now and then you'd see an acrylic stamp. And there wasn't really a whole lot. You had the pigment pads, the color box pigment pads. That was all there was. And there weren't really a lot of choices. So I was a scrapbooking instructor back in the day for AC Moore, which was a rival to Michael's. And they similarly also had a very poor stamping aisle. And a customer of mine invited me to a Stampin' Up! Party. And I was just like, yeah, okay, I'll go. And back then you had to buy the catalog. So I spent $10 for my catalog, and another really good friend of mine, Dorothy, I bought her a catalog. And over the couple weeks leading before, I had so many pages with Post-it notes on it, 3-4 things written on every single Post note. You couldn't even see the book. I wanted so much stuff. And I was like, this is ridiculous. I picked up the phone and I called the company and asked what was involved. How can I get a discount, right? So they told me everything. I overnighted my contract in. I broke my leg the next day. This is all a week and a half before, or 2 weeks before the party, by the way. And I was a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. I still went to the party because it was during celebration, and I wanted, to support my friend who was having a party, because that's what you did.
Mm-hmm.
And I still bought $80 worth of stuff and still have those stamps to this day.
Wow.
Stamps to this day. I loved it. But I went down the rabbit hole so fast, and I was with a broken leg, surgery, the whole bit, couldn't walk, sitting in my bed, learning how to stamp, learning how to make cards for a few months. And I really honestly haven't looked back since. Now I just tend to do more mixed media. But
yeah,
that's how I got into card making.
Yeah.
And I always used to send cards, back in the day. What about you, Tiffany?
Did I send cards back then?
Did you ever send cards back? I used to buy cards all the time and send them. I used to buy stationery, colorful stationery.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not surprised that I became a card maker.
Oh, before I started card making, did I send cards?
Mm-hmm. I sent a lot more than I do now. Yeah.
For like Christmas, but not
birthdays.
Yeah, not really. I don't think. No.
Yeah. And actually, now that I think about it, even before then, or maybe it was around that time too, I used to buy a lot of like DJ Inker stamps and things like that. These are companies that are before, early online shopping. I mean, I'm talking like late 90s, early 2000s. And I made a lot of gift tags at Christmas, but I spent so much time coloring them with chalks and colored pencils that I would make everybody give it back to me, and I would use it again the next year. Is that terrible? Am I terrible? You'll all have to tell me that. I couldn't make him throw my artwork away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, my mom, so when I first started, it was just basically paper, and I forget the brand. I want to say it started with a B. Maybe. I don't remember.
Okay. Oh, Basil or Basil. I'm not really sure which way it is.
Maybe.
They have like so many different colors. Great paper. Great cardstock.
It was I think I would get like these kits at Big Lots probably, and they would just come
maybe
with
not.
like
Yeah.
paper, like punch out flowers and things like
Yes.
that. And
Oh, me
my
and my
mom
big
still has all
ideas.
those. Oh yes, you know what?
Me and
That's
my big
probably it.
ideas.
Yeah.
Yeah, those were so
Yeah.
fun. Yeah, back in the day when scrapbooking was massive, and this is going probably to the second part of the question.
Mhm.
Um, how has the industry changed? Because back then, scrapbooking was king. Scrapbooking was everywhere. There were all these great magazines, creating keepsakes, and gosh, great card books that you could get all the time. But sadly, a lot of those companies, they're not around anymore,
Yeah.
which is unfortunate. Was it Paper Tray was another one, or not Paper Tray Inc., but Paper Tray, I think, was another company. There were so many. But as the scrapbooking company, it's funny because as the scrapbooking companies started to go away, card making kind of started to flourish because you really only had like the Rubber Stamper, I think, is a magazine that still actually exists, I think, or Rubber Stamper. And you had like companies that still are around, like Stampscapes, some of my favorite. I own literally every single stamp that Kevin Nakagawa has ever created, because his line is beautiful, where you piece lots of different cards together or stamps together to create scenes. He's still designing. I think he's been in business for like 30 years. But a lot of, like Mary's putting in here, a lot of stamp stores have gone out of business. Same thing with scrapbooking stores. They were so great. So many popped up. And then, yeah, just like so many small businesses, they've all kind of gone the wayside. But the industry kind of shifted to online, and you now have the opportunity to buy so much more online. Back then you had a lot of stores that were, like in Utah and places like that. There were a lot of stores that came out of Utah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What was the first company you ever bought any products from? Other than Stampin' Up.
It wasn't Stampin' Up because I couldn't afford Stampin' Up. Probably whatever, like, because Big Lots had like these packs of like random colored strips of cardstock. I mean, it wasn't the best cardstock.
Stampscapes. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I don't know if there was a brand, just whatever Big Lots had. Or a thrift store, I would find. I think I did get a Stampin' Up stamp set from a thrift store once.
From a thrift store? Wow. Yeah. I love Stampin' Up stuff. Stampin' Up makes, they've changed a lot over the years too. Their styles, they used to have a lot more art supplies in the catalog than they do now. Now everything is private labeled for them. But like they used to have a lot of, artsy things that you and I would like, Tiffany, like rainbow pearls and pigments. Also, I'm trying to think of the pigments that are different on darks and lights. Oh, good Lord, I can't think. You find
like
them in
the
art
color
stores.
shifting.
Yeah,
Kind of
yeah.
ones, yeah.
They used to have a lot of those type of products, and you could do a lot of watercoloring with that. There were so many things that you could do, and a lot more done with like chalks and stuff. And today it's really more. And they had different styles of ink pads. They had their craft ink pad, which was more the pigment line. They actually had fabric ink pads as well. There were all sorts of things that you can do. I actually have, it's funny how we keep these things, right? This was a tile that I did in a class, a Stampin' Up class that I taught, I don't know, 2003. I still have it. That was a celebration stamp set.
Oh, you know what? I think my first, which I thought was a big purchase. I'm going to grab it real quick.
Yeah.
I'll be right back.
Go for it. Oh, good. I'll answer a couple of these questions that we have in here. Basic Gray. Thank you, Melissa. That was the company I was talking about. Basic Gray. Yeah, I kept saying Paper Tray, but Basic Gray, that was a great company. Yeah. Lori said she started with Creative Memories too. Maura, also a few Creative Memory events in Stampin' Up in Chula Vista. Fun fact, Maura, back on the days when I was a restaurant manager, I trained for Marie Callender's in Chula Vista for 3 weeks. Yes, I love all that kind of stuff. I saw a really good question in here too. Mel had asked, are there drills or exercises for stamping? She said she's terrible at it, even with a platform.
Mm.
So one of the things that I would ask is, what type of stamps are you using? Do they have some sort of foam to them? If not, I would consider getting like a mouse pad or something to put underneath your paper and see if that helps.
Mhm.
Sometimes you need that little tiny bit of give to get a crisp image, and be patient with yourself. One of the things that you can do, I find a lot of people make a mistake with, is they press too hard. And when you're pressing really hard, then your hand starts to shake a little bit. You may not notice it, but that is what causes that kind of shake on the image. So just straight down, straight up is what you want to do with stamp. Wow, I need to do a stamping tutorial. It has been a long time since I've actually stamped and actually done a video. Yeah, we'll have to do that.
Yeah. I think what's helped me with the stamp, I don't know how I used to stamp before this, like any stamp platform.
Mhm.
If I'm doing a card, I will use a stamp platform, but something like this, you definitely don't have to use,
Ah,
a crafty brand. I've seen some people use a dry eraser because it's basically the same material on the bottom. So if you have one of those laying around and you just wipe it over top of the top of the surface of the
the Misty,
stamp, yeah, the misty,
or
then
whatever platform you're using. Yeah.
yeah, that's helped me a lot. Especially I have paint in my hands, so it's helped me with that
Mhm.
as well. So
Fiskars also had a stamp. They were the first ones to have a stamp platform, quite honestly. Well, it's kind of like a press, so it's kind of
mm.
like got squishy little legs, and you can
Oh
just
yeah.
very gently push it down. I'm pretty sure it's still available, and I think it comes in different sizes too. Just very easily down. I would really, and oh gosh, I just want to do lives all the time, like live Zoom, so I can see what people are doing and
Mm.
the struggles that you actually have. Because when I can see what you're doing, it's very easy to help you course correct. I've been teaching this for decades, and it's so hard, sometimes with just a chat. But I would just love to. We'll have to do that sometime. Sorry, I'm
Yeah.
just like committing us to stuff left and right. Yeah, but definitely find your pressure and be graceful. I mean, have a little grace for yourself.
Mhm.
It's okay. I find that generally, if you don't have the right surface underneath whatever you're doing, and if you put too much pressure on the top, and maybe try a different ink. It could also be that, especially if you're using like pigment inks or things like that, try a dye-based ink. And if you're using, I don't know what kind of ink you're using, Mel, why don't you type it into the chat? Um, because that could matter too. She would so
And
do a
paper.
stamping class, she said. Yes, paper also matters. Go with smooth surfaces. If you use porous papers, I'm sorry, Recollections by Michaels is not a good brand. Sorry. Sorry, Michaels. Distress oxides. Interesting. I would try stamping with dye-based inks. And I would try Catherine Pooler inks. Catherine Pooler inks are hands down to me the best to stamp with. First off, the colors are crisp. The colors rival distress colors, but distress, not oxides, distress inks are not great to stamp with. They're phenomenal to do all sorts of other things. And to
Mhm.
me, every single stamper out there needs the Catherine Pooler line and the distress line, and it completes the rainbow in ways that you just have never even thought of. I've been saying this to Tiffany for years. She literally just got a lot of Catherine Pooler inks recently.
Yep,
I
I
know. What were
did.
you waiting for? What were you waiting for,
I
Tiffany?
I don't know, just I don't know. Me to run
I
out of
love
things to buy? No.
it. I love it. So many of my friends are popping in here. It helped that
Oh,
the live is now public and not
yeah,
unlisted. Yeah,
that helps a little bit.
that does help. That does help. The Circle Guru. Hey there, Chickie. She's beautiful stamper, very, very talented. She says that and very true, when you're buying Catherine Pooler inks, make sure you're buying the refills. Definitely. Think of it like a car. A car is only going to go on one gas tank for so long before you need to actually add gas to the car in order to get it to run really well. So they are worth every single penny, every single penny. All right. So, got any other questions there, Chicky?
No, but I have my first stamp that I can remember that I got. I was so proud of it. Actually, this isn't the first one, but this is one of the first ones.
Why am I surprised? See, you have been in that style since the very beginning. I love that.
Yeah.
What's the brand? Do you know?
Inka Dinka Doo.
Inka Dinka Doo. You bought that at Michael's.
I sure did.
Oh, Big Lots. Yeah.
It was my big purchase. And I most likely used a
coupon. I was going to say, because that size stamp at a big box store would probably run you what? 12?
Yeah.
At that time. Yeah, because there wasn't a whole lot to choose from. Yeah.
Oh, well, everybody's saying they have that stamp. We should bring it back. We should use it, and bring it back.
That's awesome. I love that. My very first stamp was a plaid background stamp. It was a plaid. Well, okay. I shouldn't say that was my very first stamp. That was not my very first stamp, because my very first stamp was not Stampin' Up. My very first stamp was, I have it in a box in the other room. It might have been a Christmas stamp, believe it or not, now that I think about it. Shocker. I'm actually starting to get anxiety because it's the 22nd of April and I haven't made a Christmas card yet.
Hey, you know what? I have a solution for you.
You do?
There's a card maker success summit coming up soon.
It's probably Christmas themed, right?
It's going to be in July, actually. Yep. It's to get the jump
Christmas in July.
Yep.
I have a feeling that you're an instructor.
I am actually. And I don't know if I'm able to share. I don't have it next to me, or else I would probably break the rules and share. But yeah, I'm excited for this one. Yeah.
I love that. Tiffany is an amazing instructor. If anybody gets a chance to ever hear her teach live, she's phenomenal. Phenomenal. As you all know, because you've seen her on your channel. For sure. I don't know what's going on with my voice. My voice is like I have a frog in my throat. I do still have a question or two if you're up for it, Tiffany.
Sure.
All right, cool. So let's see here. Okay, somebody asked, do you have any local brick and mortar stores in your area? Really? You don't have any? Not even in Vegas? Isn't there a stamp store in Vegas?
In Vegas, yes. There's the Paper Bunny, I believe it's called.
I don't have one here locally, but I do have one like within an hour and a half.
Yeah, that would be probably about an hour and a half from me as well. Because it's, I think it's on the other side of Vegas from where I am when I go to Vegas. So yeah, it's quite a trek.
Yeah, and I have, let's see here. I know there's a store in Greensboro, which is the closest one to me. It used to be called a different name. I don't know if I'm guessing that they're still around. I can't remember exactly what it's called, but it was a phenomenal store. And so outside of that, there's really just kind of little pocket stores, like little tiny places that do crafts and things. It's not necessarily stamp or scrapbooking. I think there's another one even further into North Carolina that has one. So there are still stores. I know there's a long-standing store. My friend Amy, she told me today that a long-standing store in Lakeland, Florida, because I used to live in the Orlando area, sadly just closed. They were around for like 30 years. Yeah.
Aww.
Yeah. Oh, so here we've got some in Pittsburgh, a lot of different ones. Let's see here. Orange County, there's one. Calgary, there's still stores. Yeah, Erica, I can't think of the name. But it was a great store for sure. Yeah. Lots of really great stores still around. And then, you know, here in Raleigh, we have Catherine Pooler's here in Raleigh, but it's not a store that you can go into. And then I know that in the Orlando area, what's their name? I believe it or not, they were like a half hour from me and I never knew it the entire time. Big stamp company. My favorite things. Eustis, Florida. They actually have a physical store where they teach classes and things like that, as well as you can buy online. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Doesn't
Yeah, I've never had.
Where's
That's another one too.
Where's Lawn Fawn located?
There's probably a lot of them. I'm thinking still in like the Michigan area, Minnesota, probably. I went into a basic grace store before they closed in Minnesota, because up in those areas, you know, in the wintertime, a lot of people like to craft. So big scrapbooking areas, stamping areas. Lawn Fawn is in Rancho Santa Margarita, California.
Oh, in California.
Melissa, have you been there? Yeah. California had some. I used to love looking in the back of magazines for like what stores were around. And then anytime Michael and I would be driving, I'd always tell him, hey, honey, can we just go check this out? He's like, what craft store is this? All right. I have one more question for you. Mary wants to know, and this one, I'm going to throw this to you, Tiffany. Her biggest challenge is picking color combinations.
Really? No.
I'm sure that a couple people in the chat might have the same opinion here.
Yeah.
What do you do? What do you do when you pick colors?
When I color, I love it but hate it because I am too lazy to look at the color wheel, to be honest. And I can't visualize the colors like in my head. So what I do is I'll go to Pinterest and do like color, just like search like color combos, or like if I'm searching on Instagram and then I see a color combination, maybe it's not necessary, like it could be anything, like, you know, a painting, or not necessarily like something from the card niche. Then I'll save it. And then when I need inspiration, I'll go back to where I've saved, and then I'll kind of try and pick from there. So that's what I do. Yeah.
Mary here in my chat is telling you, Tiffany, to look up the app Cooler, like Cooler. She said you can generate infinite palettes.
Oh.
We are going to have to check that out.
Yeah.
Or I'm sorry. Cooler. Coolor. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm going to write that down.
Yeah. It's not color, but with one extra O.
Oh, okay.
Which is very clever. Yeah, I'm going to have to check that out too. Now, for me, what I like to do with color combinations is I actually do think of the color wheel, but I try to remember that, you know, if something's like too far across, Carolyn Doobie coined this in a class once that I heard. It was funny. She calls them frenemies. Enemies and friends, you know. So, you know, if you have colors, and if you think about the color wheel, and the general rule with a color wheel, you can probably go very safely 2 colors out. So if you're looking at red and go 2 colors over, anything in that range is going to blend really well together. The further away you get and you start to get closer to the green side, which is across from the red, you're going to start to create some mud. So that's where think of like enemies, kind of, frenemies.
Yeah.
Because then you're going to start to create some colors that don't really necessarily work. So I try to keep that in mind no matter what I'm doing, whether I'm working on a gel plate and blending, you know, colors with inks, or especially watercolor really comes into play with watercolor. And I would think too, also with like alcohol inks and things like that, anything that's going to be blending.
Yeah.
So, but for me, I like to I have my like go-to things, and a lot of it is just experimentation. You know, it's just playing around and seeing what works and what doesn't. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. You know, if it doesn't work, that doesn't mean the project's ruined. Just cover that spot up with a sequin, or, you know, that's where your sentiment's going to go. Or maybe you need to put a circle die, or cut it out. You know, be creative with some of the dyes that you have. Yeah, projects are never totally done, or add a lot of splatter in that area.
You can never have too many splatters,
No, you can't.
in my
Can't have too
opinion.
many splatters. Yep. Cool. All right. So you had a question earlier, something about your favorite products or something, I think.
Oh yeah, there was a question that I remembered from Instagram. I didn't save all of the ones. There was a few from Instagram and I forgot to save them. But one that I remembered was, what are your top 5 crafty products? There was more to the question, but I can't remember. It was, yeah.
Top 5. She started to tell me this and I was like, oh, don't tell me anymore. I want to answer this live. I don't want to think about it. Top 5 crafty products?
Yeah, it said something like tools or, whatever.
Well, see, those are 2 different things. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to lump it all into one. Okay. Things that I cannot live without. Absolutely can't live without. And this probably might have changed even just from the last couple questions. Yeah, I agree, Lori. It is a great question. I cannot live without my glass mat. My glass mat is the surface that I blend and I use for just about everything. Smushing. I love my glass mat. It's like life itself for me with crafting. Outside, I can't live without my gel plate. Sorry. It's just like attached to the hip. I don't even know how many and how many sizes. I got asked a question about how many sizes, what size gel plates should I get? I got about 5 that you need. 5 different sizes. And then let's see here. Okay. I named 2, you named 2. Let's go back and forth here.
My Dina Wakley gloss spray. I'm trying to go by what I cannot live without, like on the top of my list.
You talking about all of them or just the white?
No, just the white. No, not all of them.
Dina, if you're listening, I know you're probably not, but if you are, I need pitch black and I need a deep brown, please, because those sprays are like life itself when it comes to splatter.
Yes. My second one would have to be this stamp set.
Yes, I own that now thanks to you. I own a lot of things thanks to Tiffany.
Sorry.
Entire Ranger alcohol ink line.
It's too funny. Those are my top 2.
Your top 2. Ooh. Okay, I'm going to... This one might surprise people. It might not. I don't use them all the time, but I honestly, my craft room, it's one of those things that makes me happy. Mm-hmm. And it's one of those things like when I want to stamp, this is what I want to use. And those are my Stampscape stamps. Mm. Yeah. So I would probably put them up there for me. Yeah. I love them that much.
Yeah.
Anytime I have a product that's versatile, that to me is like gold. And when I have the thing that Kevin Nakagawa is so skilled at when he designs his stamps, he designs them. I don't remember the exact style of art. It's like little dots that create the image. It's not a drawn line. It's little teeny tiny dots.
Oh, wow.
So it takes him so long to create an image. It's really actually very, very cool. But because of that and the way they kind of flutter out with those dots, you can effortlessly blend them to create like this massive scene. And that is just when you have versatility versus just one stamp one way. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So, told you it was a little off the wall, but I'm getting some really good ones here in the chat. I don't know about you.
Somebody said, how did I know? Oh, Christine, why did I know you would say that? My favorite is field notes. Yeah. Oh, someone was asking what stamp set. Sorry, it's the Ledger script.
Ledger script, hands down.
It's very loved. So
mine's brand new.
You need to break it in.
No, it's been used, but it's
okay.
like new. Yeah, yours is loved. The sign of a good stamp. Yes. Yep. All right. There's one in the chat that I also can't live without, and that is my embossing guns.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Yeah, let's just say heat tools.
Heat tool. Yeah.
Heat tools, because I have several different kind, and I don't want to have to. Nope, I don't want to have to pick between them. That's like picking between children. You can't do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Heat tools. Yep.
Yeah.
And by the way, embossing is the thing that sold me on stamping. Like very many here, I'm sure. Anyone else in the chat or the replay? Yeah.
Yeah. Stamping in general was when I was like, wait, you put ink on this thing? Oh, hey, Lennon.
Lennon is going to be stamping too. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. Go ahead, Tiffany.
Oh, no. Just when I think her name was Lindy. When she would put, I was just mind blown. I was like, put ink on this rubber thing and then stamp it. Like, it was just like the craziest thing to me, but the coolest thing at the same time. I was totally hooked. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, it was really funny because back in the day, one of the earliest, and this is going to actually surprise you, Tiffany, because I don't think I've told you this story before. One of the very first stamp techniques, it was shortly after I had joined Stampin' Up! In my upline. She held a meeting. There were only 3 of us there. She's now got this massive team, but my friend Rose, I've talked about her in videos before. We did an alcohol ink technique. It wasn't like alcohol ink. We used dye-based inks with isopropyl alcohol on a cotton swab or a cotton ball. And we did it on glossy paper to get a really fun little effect. Now that I'm thinking about it. Yeah. Wow. That went back, didn't it? I'm surprised you haven't said alcohol inks.
Well, I have it on here, but I could, well, I don't know if I could live without them, but it's not my top, So I could name mine off really quickly.
Go for it.
This little journal, alcohol inks, all of them. This tool.
Love it. What is that thing called?
This is from LDRS. I don't know.
What do you all call those things? I always think of a hamburger patty smasher. That's what it looks like to me.
It's called a
or a sombrero. It should be called a sombrero.
Yeah. Oh, what's that movie? And he's getting the guacamole out of the hat.
Yeah. Too funny.
Despicable Me. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And my new favorite is the Sizzix Switch Plus. Is that what it is? The Switch Plus? Because I don't have to crank anymore. I cannot live without that one anymore.
Yeah, I'm wanting that myself. Yep. She's enabling me.
And distress sprays.
Again, I love my distress inks. It's too difficult to choose 5. I can't.
No, that was way more than 5. Like 10.
I can't. Gel plate, and I didn't even say brayer because I can't do anything without my brayer either on a gel plate. So gel plate and tools. Yeah, I need that as well. My Stampscape stamps, which I love. I gotta have my heat tools because you need to emboss. And by the way, I totally screwed up embossing. I'll have to tell that story some other day. But I was that person that over embossed everything because this is why I'm not allowed to grill meat because I burn everything. I'm great in the kitchen, but don't let me touch a steak on the grill. Yes, which is why I wrecked every single embossing project when I started. Yep. Oh, I love that. We don't all know everything from the very beginning. I'm just like everybody else.
Yeah.
All right. I do have a question though. And maybe you have some thoughts on this. A couple people asked this. They're new to gel printing and they have over 100 colors of like regular acrylic craft paint. Now they didn't both say that, but they both have a lot of different acrylic craft paint. And when I hear craft paint, what brand do you tend to think of, Tiffany? Like crafting store?
Yeah, like the cheap one from Michael's or like Walmart or something like that. That's what I would think of.
Or something. I'm thinking, like those little tubes, like the little acrylic paints that you like do crafty projects with. That's what I'm thinking. She says, is there a way to thicken said paints? to use them for gel printing, which is, I thought, an interesting question. What do you think?
Maybe. I've thickened gesso with cornstarch before.
Interesting.
Like it was really thin. I think it was a collab we did all together with the
Oh, that's right.
the trash. Yeah. Or well,
Yeah.
it's trash or whatever, but
Right.
yeah. Yeah.
But have you tried that on a gel plate?
I haven't. No.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, I haven't, you can use those because I use them on a gel plate. They're not the best. Like somebody had asked earlier, I think Melissa had asked earlier about the Dilutions paints. Dilution used to have their acrylic paint in these great little jars that you could open, and they were beautiful paints, but they switched them into these little squeeze bottles. And when they did that, I don't know if you have any, but I feel like they're thinner than they used to be. And I can't get them to work really well on a gel plate, which is so disheartening because they have some of that. The Dirty Martini is my favorite green, period. Right? You know that green? It's gorgeous. Yeah. But I'm so disappointed because I can't get it to work because I feel like it's a little thinner. Yeah, which is sad. So like when you have fluid acrylics and you have those struggles, you could try, I don't know, you could try, I just think I just need to get different paints because it's just too frustrating. I don't want to be frustrated and have to add something to my paints every single time. It's just as frustrating when you use really, really cheap acrylics. You get what you pay for. Like those, my first set was like a Marie, it was called Marie's and it came off Amazon. It was like $10 or $15 and you got like 24 colors or something.
Yeah.
This is many, many years ago. I'm sure you'll have to tell us in the chat, the replay, if you've ever tried like cheap paints and then tried doing a project with them. They dry super fast. So I had it in my head that I'm going to save money and I'm going to go get that retarder, which is what it's called. And that would make it stay open longer so that I could do gel printing. No, just buy the right product. That's what I need to do. You can't hack the system. Can't hack the system.
Yeah.
All right. Sharon says that she added corn flour and cornstarch to her thinned art glitter glue and it worked well. So she thinks that it might work in paint too. Tiffany's going to have to do a video on that.
Yeah. Cindy's asking, has anyone used distress paints on a gel press? I want to say that I tried and they're too because they're super water based. I remember it not working like I wanted it. But I wasn't doing like a huge experiment or anything. I just remember trying them because I really I wanted to use them for the colors and it didn't work for what I wanted.
Yeah, that's the thing is when they're too thin, it's hard. It doesn't work as well. I have a lot of people chiming in here. Tara says that Golden has a paint thickener, and you could definitely try that. So if you have that color that you absolutely love and you want to do that, but if you have to do that with every single one, it makes the process not as fun for me. And I think that when you start to take some of the, I'm not saying that you can't do that. You can 100% do that. But for like me, I just, that like adds that extra step in there. And then sometimes it's just becomes more work. And I'm all about taking the work out of the artwork, right? So that you can have fun with the art because that's really what it's about. It's not about it feeling like work. Mary says to try gel medium also to thicken. I have made paints also with gel mediums before. Yeah. They don't work as well on the gel plate, but you can do it. I've done it with gelatos. Yeah. Oh. Kind of fun. Yep. Yeah. All right. I have somebody who asked me if I'm still making YouTube videos. Something Tiffany asks me all the time. You still gonna make a video? The answer is yes. The answer is yes. It's coming. It's coming. You got to tell me in the chat or in the comments, what would you like me to make a video on? Any particular topics, things you come up against, things that you're stuck on, anything that you would love some clarity on, or just a little deeper knowledge. Tiffany and I, you never know. We may even collaborate. I get Karen in
Maybe.
here too. Maybe she would collaborate with us.
Yeah.
Oh, Lennon reminded us that we are making a video right now.
We are making content. This is our
Yes,
second
we
live
are.
this week.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. So much fun. So much fun. So cool.
I have
I
one
Go for it.
sorry.
Mm.
Cindy asks, what paints are best for gel plate?
Oh, funny. I have that same question. Yeah, I tend to like. It's so funny when I get very serious. I hear my voice change, and I know like my serious teacher voice is coming out. That just happened. Yeah, for me, it's really more the heavy-bodied acrylics. You can use fluids. Golden fluids. A lot of people really love those and get some really great prints with those. I like heavy-bodied acrylics better. I just find I have a little bit more control. I really love that they, and not every single brand is going to be the best. They're not going to stay as open as long. I don't buy artist grade. If I were making these massive, massive big prints or like landscapes and, selling them for hundreds of dollars, then I would probably use artist grade, and I would use a better quality paper as well. But for cards, for making collages and for putting into an art journal, I tend to buy student grade more than anything. And a student grade, that was another question that I had. What is the difference between student and artist grade? Student grade, generally, it doesn't have as rich, it's not as richly pigmented usually, which means the price is also a little better. The German word on price just came in my mind and I couldn't think of the English one for a second. Yeah, so it's ein bisschen günstiger. So, and what's really cool is a lot of companies out there, it's not like there's a brand that's a student grade. It's usually that the same brand has different levels, just like anything else in life. So, look for, just student grade. Well, it doesn't even say student grade usually. Usually if it doesn't say artist grade, tendency, it's most likely like a student grade or a hobby grade or something like that. So, all right. I'm just reading some of the comments here. It's fun to see you all. Thank you for hanging with us on a Friday night. This is really a lot of fun.
This was fun.
Yep. So you got any other questions there, Chicky?
I don't.
Okay, I have a couple here on gel printing that I want to throw out there just because I know that a lot of people struggle a little with gel printing. One of them is gel printing is the one thing that intimidates the heck out of me, she says. And another person said, I'm new to the gel plate world. I love your idea of using deli paper. My question is, what do you do with a finished piece of deli paper? Got any thoughts there, Tiff? Have you tried
it? Finished piece of deli paper? No, I haven't used them. Well, a little bit of collage, but not too much. I'm a background hoarder. I like to make the backgrounds, not use them.
Yeah, me too. I would say that I'm a starter for sure, and not so much a finisher. I love to hoard my backgrounds, but at the same time, I do like to reach for certain ones, and especially when I'm making cards and things like that. I find that lately I'm reaching for a lot of gel plate backgrounds, especially the deli papers, because I've been wanting to do collage. I find them so great to add to like canvases or art journal pages, just make different dyes and things. I think I have a couple samples like around somewhere. Like we did some the other day in a live. I took like a heart and created, this is an example. This is, a canvas. I did this with some patrons in a live once. So this is a heart, just a piece of a pasta box. I tend to, use pasta boxes and popcorn boxes and things like that. All the things that I don't eat anymore. But thankfully, I kept all the boxes. And so there's deli paper on top of that. There's also a little bit in the background as well. Those are some of the things that you can do. You can collage onto onto actual like coasters. I don't have one of my collaged ones here, but you can do that with, this is actually deli paper right here. You can, oh, here's the card I was talking about. Collage different ones. A lot of the things that Tiffany does too in a lot of her like art journals and stuff. Just using different pieces and things like that. Another thing that you can do, you know, this is just a piece of a deli paper up top just for added texture and some really cool little accents and stuff. What other things would you think that you could do with that when you start thinking in those terms?
I think the first thing that came to mind was not looking at it as a whole rather than, like you said, like pieces. So I don't necessarily have like a project in mind, but yeah, like looking at it like, oh, is this little piece here, you know, spark some inspiration or something rather than what am I going to do with this big print, you know? So look at it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that that's probably one of the biggest struggles that a lot of crafters do have too, is they think of things and they're like, well, how am I going to use this as a whole? And I would definitely encourage you to do exactly like kind of like what Tiffany just said, break things down. Even, you know, like how small can you make it? Right?
Yeah.
How small? Things don't have to be complicated. You know, it could be just as simple as that. And that's just a scrap of a gel print, you know, that you turn into something super simple. So I'm going to challenge everybody to do that. How can you use it to fill your entire background on a card and at the same time use maybe that same print to create something, the smallest thing that you can do, you know, kind of really kind of think of both worlds there. So yeah. Well, cool.
Yeah. This was fun.
This was a lot of fun. Yeah. For those of you that missed it, we did this on Monday. So I'm going to leave a link to both to Tiffany's and my live that we did on Monday, where we made a ton of projects. This is a coffee bag, by the way. Ton of really cool things. And just really want to say thank you. We appreciate everybody joining us here. I definitely want you to leave us a comment in the chat on any videos that you want us to make or any lives that you want us to do. And definitely check out the links to when we're both teaching next. We've both got free classes coming up.
Yeah.
You can't argue on the price. Just saying.
Yep.
Thanks so much. It was so much fun hanging with everybody. Hope you all have a great night.